What's going on out there, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Life After Sports with Greg Vaughn and James Harris. We have a very special guest today, a guy that I really, really respect, a guy that gave me an opportunity when I was a very, very young man coming out of East St. Louis, a tough city, and he saw enough in me to come and get me out of East St. Louis and give me an opportunity to get an education and play football. Life has a beginning and an end. And I would say my manhood begins with Super Bowl winning coach, Mr. Bad Man, Bruce Arians. How you doing today, Coach?
Doing great, James. How you doing, baby?
Man, I'm feeling really good, man. Me and my buddy here, oh man, we've been having a great time doing this podcast. I wanted you to come on because I wanted you to talk about your life as a coach, going into inner cities, getting young men like myself and giving them opportunities, and also continue staying with those guys as long as you do, because me, myself, see the guys that you had on your sideline as a head coach in Tampa. Can you talk to our audience and explain to them and talk to them about the things that you felt when you went into an inner city and talked to their moms and their fathers, and the way that you kept those guys close to you after they graduated from college?
Yeah, I mean, it was the same for me. I was an inner city kid. I actually got kicked out of high school, and everybody that was recruiting me dropped me except one man, John Devlin. If you remember, I hired Coach Devlin as assistant head coach at Temple.
Yes.
That was my best pay forward moment I ever had. And but those kids, that was natural for me. You know, to inner city kids is who I related to. It was a little bit different when I had to go into the country, but I had those southern years of being in the country recruiting. So it was. But those guys are so special, man. That Temple group, I think 30 or 40 of those guys are friends on Facebook with my wife, and I've got about 15, but I think 20 of them came down 2 years ago in May. Just no football games, just to come down because we have so many Temple alums on our staff. You know, Todd Bowles, Todd McNair, Kevin Ross, Nick Rapone, Keith Armstrong, Clive Christensen, guys that coach with Amos Jones. I mean, that's family. And when you play for me, it's family for life.
You know what, Coach? I think that air is lost, though. You know what I mean? Because I was, one of those guys too. You know, you grew up in the inner city, and you know, it was a bond. You know what I mean? And I remember coaches coming into the living room and, you know, telling my mother and promising that, you know, they were going to look after me. And, you know, this is my first time. I know of you, big admirer of you. I love the style, I love the hat. It just depends on what color gear you got on. You know what I mean? So, but I mean, that says something about the man. You know what I mean? Because in retrospect, you know, football is, or baseball or sport is a avenue to us to, you know, not necessarily make it to the league, but better our lives and get an education. But it's people like you guys, you know, that touch so many people that look like me and James. You know what I mean? Because our village was shaped with all types of different people and colors, and you know, I applaud you for doing that, because nowadays, you know, I mean, every other month somebody's going somewhere else. You know, the coach is leaving after he brings in a class, and and I understand they have to take care of their family, but they also made promises to moms. You know what I mean, that their baby was going to be okay. So I admire you for doing that and defining that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought that was an obligation that I had to the moms and dads, grandmas, whoever it was that was raising that child, to make sure they got that education. Football was secondary, you know. They were going to get that education. I was making sure they went to class. And if they didn't go to class, they were going great shape, because I would run the shit out of them every morning.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And another thing that you was a pioneer to is you was the first coach in the NFL that I can remember to have a black offensive coordinator and a black defensive coordinator. When everybody was hollering about diversity, you had already started it. Actually, you started it at Temple, and nobody paid attention to it. But once it got on TV, when you was the head coach and going to the Super Bowl, and people started paying attention to that. Tell me What made you hire a black offensive coordinator and a black defensive coordinator on your Super Bowl team, not just your Super Bowl team, but on your coaching staff?
Yeah, I was also assistant head coach and special teams coordinator. We're all African American.
That's
Now,
right.
they're just the best dudes I knew. I mean, those are my guys. And I've been around. I've coached a long time. And Harold Goodwin was with me for forever. He was my assistant head coach. Todd Bowles played for me at Temple. Byron Leftwich, I coached in Pittsburgh. I had to get him off the couch and get him in the game. And he's just a tremendous coordinator. Keith Armstrong, another captain of mine at Temple, had been in the league for a while. And all those guys were available when I went to Temple. I probably wouldn't have taken the job if Byron wasn't available because I didn't want to call the plays anymore. I still would be the head coach. And now, women, when I opened the door for women, that was on purpose. That door needed to be opened. And very, very proud to have coached the first woman hired the first woman in the NFL, and then we had two on our staff here at at Tampa Bay. And so that was those were just the best guys I knew. The women, that was on purpose.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. But once again, I think it goes back to the testament of the man that you are. You know what I mean? Even diversity, I don't want to say civil rights, but it's sort of the civil rights in evolving in sports, with the whole Kaepernick and the George Floyds. You were never scared to say how you felt. You know what I mean? And, you, Pop, Steve Kerr, there were certain coaches that didn't even touch that subject. But, it's men like you that we really appreciate because, sometimes, our voice doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. But when people that, I don't want to say don't have skin in the game, but when people don't look like us and don't have to worry about their kids getting pulled over or certain things happening, it means a lot to have you guys, represent that part of our lives because it is important to us. We want this world to be a good place. I mean, everyone's important. But it's not necessarily fair. And I appreciate you speaking up on that.
Well, it's easy for me. My first coach ever was a black man. I was the minority on my 9-year-old football team. And they nicknamed me Whitey because my hair was white.
But you knew you were accepted after that, though. You were good.
Yes, he would kick you right in your ass when you didn't mess up, too, boy. And so I had this appreciation for him. I think everybody I ever looked up to when I was a young man was named Coach. My dad was probably my best coach ever, but he worked 7 days a week in the factory. And so I didn't know those other guys' dads giving up their time. I just called him Coach, man. And I knew when I grew up, I wanted to be like them. I wanted to be a coach.
Just to circle back, what was the mindset when, the fallout you thought you might get from bringing a female into we're talking about a barbaric sport, you know what I mean? And having her on that sideline and being around guys, what made you think of that?
Well, I had seen it. When I was recruiting at Mississippi State back in the 90s, I go down to Hines Junior College, and Dot Murphy and her husband, Gene, was the head coach, and she was the receiver coach. She was a hell of a football coach. So I had already seen it. I knew it could happen. And when you think of football coaches, they're just teachers. They're glorified teachers. So what better teachers have you ever had than women?
Right.
Not nuns, because they beat the shit out of them. But women teachers. So it's like, for me, Lori Locust, I hired Lori not even realizing she was at Temple with all the guys. She was Andy Locust's ex-wife. And Maral Jabba-Tafar, she's outstanding in the weight room and now head of rehabilitation for us. Jen Welter, Jen had played football, played with men, was on the Olympic team, was coaching arena ball. When I put that out there, her head coach reached out to me. I said, well, tell her to come up and let me meet her. And she was a bundle of energy, and still is. And so it was easy. I brought her in as an intern for the training camp, and then I was convinced it was fine. The guys, any football player, if you can tell them how you're gonna make them better, I don't care what you look like. If you're gonna help me get better, I'm all in. I'm all in.
Yeah. Coach is the epitome of our slogan. Our slogan is breaking chains and building dreams. And one thing I can say about you as a coach in college and in the NFL, you have broken chains and you have built a lot of dreams. And I want to say I really appreciate you breaking chains and building dreams for a lot of guys like myself from the inner cities, like guys like Greg Vaughn and myself. You know, that just gets the opportunity to get away and break that chain. And guys like you give us the chance to have that dream. So I would like to say from James Harris and Greg Vaughn, thank you for being the guy that broke chains and built dreams for a lot of men like myself.
And
Well, for me, James, things like this, talking to one of my former guys, that's what it's all about for me. You know, I go back to Tampa. I went back a couple years ago, and my 50 or 60 guys out there. You know, it was awesome. And same thing when we won the Super Bowl. I got texts from guys I coached in '79 at Mississippi State and '81 Alabama. You know, it's those relationships is what this business is all about. Sports is about relationships, and I don't care when we get in that locker room is a safe haven, and it's starting to creep in now. But politics, religion, and shit's creeping into the locker room now, and it doesn't. There's no business there. You know, when you go walk in that locker room, that's hey, we're team. I don't care where you came from, what you look like, what color you are. We're a team, all right? And we take care of each other. We got each other's back. And I think some of that's leaving now, and that scares me.